Okay, Marty, so going back to what we talked about in your post regarding 7-yard zero versus 25-yard zero and what's better and what's worse, what do most people do, what do they not do, I've decided to go ahead and run my own test that I wanted you to, that I suggested that you run, which what I'm going to do first is I'm going to shoot a 2-inch dot at 7 yards on a fresh USPSA target, and I'm going to put a 3-round group with what my competition 1911 is, which is just it's a 9mm 1911 with adjustable sights, and right now the gun is zeroed to 25 yards. So I'm going to shoot a 3-round group at 7, and then I'm going to wheel the target out to 25 yards and shoot another 3-round group. Then I'm going to bring the target back in, we'll pace it up, and we'll do the test all over again. But what I'll do the next time is I'm going to use a screwdriver and I'm going to adjust my rear sight either left or right 4 to 5 clicks to basically put the zero off. And we're going to shoot the same test again, and we'll kind of see what the results are of the test both directions. So stand by and I'll be back in a moment. Okay. So nothing special about the gun. It's just a 1911 9mm adjustable sights and a mag well. So I shoot this in competition all the time. It's one of my favorite guns to not only to shoot in competition, but to train with, as well as to teach with and everything. So I know the ins and outs of this gun. I know where the gun is sighted in and zeroed for every distance all the way out to 75 yards. So that's why I wanted to use this one today, because of the fact that I know where it's zeroed and then I know what off zero looks like on this gun. So I'm going to go ahead and load up, and I'm going to take 3 shots at my 7-yard target on a 2-inch dot. I shot 4, the first one I tossed, so just to make sure that we were dead on, I'll reel this in and show you what we're at. It's pretty freezing cold here in the range as well too, but right now, this was the first shot I tossed. Then we were 1, 2, and 3. Actually, this was my second shot, so 1, 2, and 3. So off group just a little bit, but we get the picture. Now I'm going to reel it out to 25 yards and we're going to shoot it again. Okay, so now we're at 25 yards and here we go. I had another shot that I pulled, second shot in, that it looks like I went a little high, kind of anticipating the trigger. But as we can see, I have hit here, and hit here. So we're dead center, right where we need to be, right? So that's the main thing I wanted to look at. So we're not even really concerned about elevation. Like I said, I tossed that one shot, but as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds basically all within the same about 3.5, 4-inch group. So that's I would say that's pretty acceptable. So considering what it is. So now I'm going to paste everything up, and then I'm going to skew my sight about 4 clicks to the left, which should deviate at 25 yards. It should give me about a 2-inch left deviation, I believe. It might be more like 6 clicks. Anyway, I'll put it at 4 and we'll try the test again and we'll see what happens. Okay, so here I am now. I've got the firearm. Got my trusty screwdriver, and I'm going to move it left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to move that rear sight over 6 clicks. That should make a significant difference in impact at 25 yards. So I've got my target all pasted back up. We're back at 7 yards again. And now I'm going to shoot the 3 rounds again to reestablish the typical, the 7 yard zero that we think is so important. Okay, my trigger control now, I'm getting a little more warmed up to the gun again. It's getting a lot better. But as you can see, with the rear sight basically deviated over 6 clicks, I'm still, actually even a tighter group, but I'm still right where I want to be at 7 yards. So we didn't see a whole lot of difference. But now I'm going to reel that target all the way out to 25 yards, and we're going to see what kind of difference it actually makes at 25 yards with a deviated rear sight. Okay, so load it up again. Target's at 25 yards. That's 3 good shots. We'll see what happens. Reel the target back in. I actually couldn't be happier with exactly how that group actually turned out. So that's 3 pretty good shots as best I could. I think I may have pulled my 3rd shot just a touch, but lo and behold, here's the results I was wanting to talk about and discuss that I was trying to get through in the text response, but it's probably better just to kind of see it for yourself. So we had the nice tight little three round group at 7 yards, even with a 6-click skewed rear sight. So the difference it made was extremely nominal, if anything, on the center of our little 2-inch dot at 7 yards, right? So this is what we ended up with, though, at 25 yards. And as you can see, before we were still strung right in a nice tight, in a nice line straight up and down. So as you can see, though, at 7 yards, even with the skewed rear sight, we're still pretty centered at 7 yards, but when we reel it out to 25 yards, look what happens. Everything point of impact moved over about 2.5 inches. So that 2.5 inches, I mean, that's the difference between a gun that's zeroed at 7 yards that we think, that you kind of were thinking was extremely important, versus a gun that was properly zeroed at 25 yards that gave us a good 7-yard group, and a gun that we think is zeroed properly at 7 yards, but unfortunately we're actually not zeroed at 25. So there actually is a difference in windage. So those little bitty micros, as far as a basic millimeter off in the rear sight can be enough to, at 7 yards, we're not going to see that. But at 25 yards, hell, even if I reeled that target out to 15 yards, we're going to see a pretty standard deviation of the rounds actually going more to the left. So that, therein lies the results of actual tests. So ballistic tables aside, everything else aside, this is kind of what was expected. I know Mike Ganerick was, kind of trying to discuss this with you yesterday. So were a few other guys. I understand it was really hard. Some of those guys, they kind of troll, things like that. But what they were trying to get at was a 7-yard zero, even for a standard defense gun. Just you're not really getting anything in it. what a 7 yard, what I typically will take my students from, and I will pull the target way in to 5 yards or 7 yards, because what it does is it actually ends up reducing or almost eliminating mechanical accuracy or mechanical zero from the gun, so that the student can then focus on just fundamental marksmanship, sight alignment, proper trigger press. If everything lines up the way it's supposed to, when the student pulls the trigger, regardless of of the zero of the gun, the rounds are going to land on target pretty much where they want to be. So that's what this test was supposed to confirm, and in fact, it did. Okay, and one last test was to re-zero the gun back to my original point of aim, point of impact. I was holding just a little above the A zone, this time at 25 yards, and put a 10-round group. I'm back to pretty damn centered on the target. I will finish this up while I've got you guys here. I'm going to put that target back at 7 yards. And I'll show you what my 7-yard group looks like. And there it is. That's 3 rounds. I tossed that one, that was my 3rd, so I went back in, as you could clearly saw in the video, went back in and shot one more, and basically put 3 rounds through the same hole. So again, that's now, again, my gun set back 6 clicks back to the right from the 6 clicks back to I had it to the left to skew it. I went back in, now I've reaffirmed my zero again on the gun, and I'm pretty damn happy with that. So I could shoot that 10 rounds at 25 yards, I don't want to say as fast as possible, or as fast as I possibly can, but I can shoot that pretty darn fast and repeatable. That 10 rounds wasn't like super slow fire. So just want to let you know that's what we're at, and that's what I was trying to get at with the whole 7-yard zero versus 25-yard zero, and what that difference actually means when you truly compare the two.